And I also believe that there is an energy in human touch that communicates into the ground, into the seeds that you've just sown, and it's blessed. Hey, glad you could come out today. It's early in the season. It's a bit chilly and windy. We're going to get some planting done. Some of the beds are somewhat prepared, so I'll show you what I've been doing. This right here is where the onions are going to go. Starting at that T-post this way. There'll be other stuff planted down there. This part of the bed's already been amended and worked, but I left this little section so I could show you what goes in it and then what happens. This little square right here. One of the things that feeds the soil microorganisms is molasses. If this is dry molasses, and you just sprinkle it. Oh, see, it's already getting hard. The moisture in the air, it turns it into a solid piece, and then you have to break it loose. So you just sprinkle it over the surface. And then another thing I put in is cornmeal. This is to keep fungal growth down, and it also, it's ground corn, so it has some nutrients in it that the soil microorganisms as well as the plants can use. So just give it a good sprinkle. I'll give you more information if you want it on amounts and why all this different stuff is put into the bed in my blog on Substack. So got the cornmeal on there. Next would be some, for onions, we're gonna put some bone meal in, and there again, I can give you more information on why, but this helps them to do better. Over time, you know, organic gardeners have learned what does what for which plants. And it's a lot of times about the minerals. See, this stuff is really fine, and it is from dried bones, so you don't want to really breathe it. I usually just try to be upwind of all this stuff. So close it up. And what happened to my clothespin? Oh well, I'll use that one. Giving a little ashes to the beds. Ashes again have these are oak, only oak. That's what we burn in our wood stove. So not introducing any, you know, chemicals from treated wood or types of wood that wouldn't be so good for the soil organisms. So that's all of that. This little wagon is really convenient for taking things back and forth to the garden shed. And let's see, does it say? No, it doesn't even say Academy on it, does it? It's for like when you go, it does back here, when you go camping and you want to haul all your stuff from your car. All right, let's see what else. Fertilizer. Now, I like this right here, but I ran out. So I'm using, and it's just got a lot of good organic gardening stuff in it and no manure. since the mushroom compost that we brought in and worked in this bed, and the other two we're going to show you, has a lot of manure, then we don't need that in other elements, although my compost pile does have some horse manure that goes with everything else. So this is an alternative organic fertilizer that I'm using. Got it at Lowe's or somewhere. You're gonna see when I turn this that we want all these goodies to be down there in the soil when the roots get to them. And then you'll see when you come back and things have started to grow, how what good that did. So here's that fertilizer. Close that up. Then I've got langbonite, which is a mined mineral that has, it's also called Sulpo Mag. It's got sulfur, potassium, and magnesium. And so it's really good for potatoes and onions especially. So we also put this in the potato bed, which you'll see in a minute, and over here. And it's just kind of a crystalline powder. All right. Yeah, maybe a little more. So, close this guy up and get my gloves on and get to forking. It's warming up. I might have to take this. I don't know what that meant.
The steaks.
Well, I'm not to that yet. I'm stirring. Remember? Or am I not going to stir? All right. So see, we just want to get all those goodies down in there and mixed in. Since I never walk on these beds, it makes it a lot easier to work them. And I've had a little gas tiller, but it just wasn't worth the trouble to keep them running, you know. And I'm not a gas engine mechanic. So this is some manual labor, but it doesn't kill me. And I think it helps me stay young and able, I hope. Anyway, so see, that isn't too hard or takes too long. So now you can see what I'll do over here, but I'm going to just go ahead and show you the planting. And this pointed hoe is really a blessing because I can just make a little trench like that, little trench like that, and maybe I'll work a little more over here. Then I'll be able to do 3 and show you all 3 things I'm going to plant here. And remember, they're going to go all the way down there, but for right now, I won't do all of that. I'll just show you this much. So, and you know, sometimes I think I should work it deeper. Some people call it double digging, where they actually take some out and then work down deeper and then put some back. But the stuff is going to get watered and go south, you know. So it's going to be carried down there. All right, so it's looking like I'm gonna have 5 of these when I get this all done. And then I'm gonna plant my 3 types of onions that I have. Hold on a minute. Get my handy dandy sign. Okay, so this is what we're gonna have. We're gonna have white onions from sets. We're gonna have red onions from sets, and I'll show you in a minute what that means. And we're gonna have 1015 Texas sweet onions from seed. So these you can buy at a lot of grocery stores or Tractor Supply, those kind of farm and ranch type places. And they're onion sets. I've grown them. You grow them in the fall, obviously, and then you have these little baby onions that you can sell to somebody to plant in the spring. And it gives you a head start. And it's really easy. Like, so you just take some of them and, wait a minute, I got that backwards, didn't I? Wasn't looking. So the red ones, you just lay them in the trench about 4 inches apart and, you know, just eyeball it. And it doesn't matter what size they are, they're going to grow an onion. So that'll be enough for that. Then we'll put the, I've got a couple of extras here. All right. Main thing is just when I cover them, that green is showing, and kind of stand them up, and you know, looks like you already got a baby onion there, instant. There you go. There's another little teeny one. Yeah, that one might get lost, but we'll see. Okay. All right. So when I start watering this, then they'll start growing. Okay. So same thing with the white ones. Just lay them in the trench. And then cover them up. And kind of stand them up to, you know, give them the idea what they're supposed to do. And I'll plant all the rest of them later. So the other onion that I have to plant here in this row is the Texas 1015, which is a hybrid and a sweet onion, super sweet, they call it. I have the seeds. Let's see, there's the name of it. And they're called 1015 because the ideal time to plant them supposedly is 1015, October 15th. And in this part of the country, they would overwinter. But because I didn't do a fall garden, I'm going to grow some in the spring. And they won't be as big, but hopefully they'll make. Now the seeds, you can see, are not like tiny, tiny, but they're small. And because they're black, I can't always see them when I drop them in the little furrow there. So I'm going to wait and plant them when I can take my time and get them the right depth and so on. So that's all I'm going to show you today about the onions. And we're going to go over here and see where the potatoes are going to go in. Now, a lot of people, like Grandpa's dad, planted his potatoes always on Valentine's Day, which was yesterday. So we're not far off on that. I try to get them in by the 20th, and then they take about 90 days. And then you can dig the whole crop, but you can start digging some small ones before that. We're going to be planting these seed potatoes from my last spring crop. Now, that's a while. They've been in the house in the cool and dark, and obviously they're sprouting. So I'm going to stick these in the ground and see what happens. Also have some seed potatoes that I bought. And then I cut them up. I talked about this in my blog, and put ashes on them. You want to get a piece that has a sprout or an eye, and then that helps them to make a callus that protects them from organisms till they make a plant. So we're going to bring these over here, and I'm going to make 3 rows. I have more of these that are my homegrown than I do of these. I'm going to put all of these store-bought ones on this end. So what I'm going to show you here is just make a furrow that crosses the line I've drawn here. And I'll plant a few on either side. Now you plant them about a foot apart, so they have room underground to make a bunch of potatoes. So down here is where these guys go, and just cover them up, and they're going to send up about a foot apart. Where's that yardstick? Hold on, I'm going to get a measuring device. You can kind of eyeball it mostly, but see, like, that's actually where a foot is. And then we'll have one more we'll put in here, down here at 24 inches. And then we'll just cover them up. And then once I start watering them, they'll send up potato plants. And it's wonderful when they come up. And they grow pretty fast. Then I'm just going to take a few of these down there and plant them. And then I'll be kind of comparing, how they do. I mean, this is an experiment, obviously. And you just put them down in there and cover them up. And they'll find their way to the surface. Because That's what they're made to do. All right. So I'll come back later and plant the rest of these.
Your steaks.
I need to get my stakes to label things so I don't forget what I put where. Plus, it's nice for people visiting the garden to know what things are. It takes a while to get to where you can recognize the different things when they come up and as they grow. So we got potatoes. I didn't make a separate label for the two types because I'll know what's what. I think I'll put this steak though right here, and then that'll remind me that right here is where I made the change from one type of start to another. Okay? So we're going to go over here now to the feed trough that we made into a planter for like lettuce and spinach and parsley and cilantro, things that don't have very deep roots and are nice to have for cooking and salad and stuff. Oh yeah, in episode 1, I had radishes in there and some spinach that was pretty mature. And I'm not going to plant any radish this time because I don't really eat them, and I don't have much call for them from the people I sell produce to. So what's going to go in here, though, as I said, is well, I guess I didn't make signs for them. They were just going to be, I know what's there. And this stuff, it tends to bolt as soon as it warms up. This is more cold weather stuff. Oh, parsley. I like to grow a little parsley, and then I dry it and have it to put in soups and stews and whatever dishes like that. Got this Benjamin romaine lettuce, which it was developed in Israel. I have saved seed from it. Cilantro, real easy to get seed from. Makes tons of seeds. You'll see later in the season. Oak leaf lettuce, which I found a volunteer oak leaf lettuce from my sowing in here outside the fence. That was a big head of lettuce I harvested the other day for salads. Spinach. And that's all I'm going to put in here right now, I think, isn't it? Okay. And the spinach I'm going to soak. I'm going to take that back in the house and soak it before I plant it. So right now I think I'm just going to show you what it would look like to broadcast some cilantro seeds in a section of here. And in fact, I like to put the cilantro along the back because the sun goes over there in the afternoon, and that way they grow about this tall and kind of bushy. I mean, not a lot. And give the greens in front of them some shade. So I'll just do that part here and then come back later and I'll just section it off and broadcast these little lettuce seeds. Let me show you these. They're just so cool. Like here again, I harvested the flower head, and after it was all dried, and I'm not even sure exactly what part is the seed, but they're in there. And all of those little, I think they're those little right there. See, they're kind of pointed at both ends and flat. That's the lettuce seed. Anyway, when you put them in there with this other stuff that they grew in, it also helps hold moisture around them. And they will be a lawn that I can just cut the baby greens and have salad whenever I want, or someone asks me for some, and I give them a nice bag of organic salad greens. So putting these back, and then I didn't bring the pointed hoe, but I have this. I'm going to use this to just make a row along the back for these. And this was just turned. We had to pull all of this that had grown in this rich soil. It's chickweed mostly, which is actually a pot herb. You can eat it. We just haven't gotten in the habit. There's a little bit of stinging nettle in here, which I talked about in my blog. You can eat that too if you prepare it correctly. That'll probably go in my compost because it doesn't have seeds and it will break down. So we got it all cleaned out, and there will still probably be some stuff that comes up in here, but I'm just gonna sprinkle some cilantro in here, and I'll come back and thin it, you know, um, once it's all coming up, because I do want them to have plenty of room to make a nice tall mature plant. But you want to plant your seeds about the depth of their diameter, and so you just want a light covering over them. Of a lot of times I'll take more fine stuff that's in the bed and sprinkle them. And taking the time to treat your seeds right will get you a lot better success. I mean, it's not all that much. You just they want to be surrounded by soil and moisture. And then when they germinate, of course, they need continual moisture. And here's one of my favorite parts. Once you have the layer of soil over them, then you go with your hand and you press, just lightly. Not like you're trying to, push the bottom out of something, but just firmly. And it's kind of, I think of it as tucking them in, you know. And I also believe that there is an energy in human touch that communicates into the ground, into the seeds that you've just sown, and it's blessed. Also pray over them. And a friend of mine suggested playing classical music out here, which I may try, because I do have a plug right over there that I got working. So that's where the cilantro will go. I'll finish that row on the back. Then, like I said, put the lettuce and parsley and spinach in here in the front. I like spinach, so I'll probably do half of this front and spinach, and maybe put the parsley down here because it's really pretty. I'm always kind of thinking too about how stuff's going to look when it's all growing the way I arrange it. So I guess that's the part of the art that I get to do. And you'll see when it's all growing. I know it could be a lot more polished, but the plants themselves are just so beautiful that when you have it all together and arranged and healthy and producing, it's wonderful. And that's why I do it. So, and the good food you get to eat. From here, we're going to go over here and talk about beans. Now, green beans grow really well here in the fall. In the spring, it tends to get warm pretty quick and they decline. The plants just give up. But you still have a pretty good harvest while it's good. Like, I'm going to plant a row of green beans on either side here, and you can see the ground is a little bit furrowed. Actually, my son did that, and it turned out to be a great idea because I'll just go along there with my contender beans. They are an heirloom. It's just to get enough to plant, you have to leave so many on the plant. I don't generally do that, so I have bought them in bulk, and they're, of course, a big seed. They're a bean. Contender, also called Buff Valentine, which don't know what that's about. Maybe it's French. Buff Valentine. Okay, I won't murder any more French. So yeah, like what I'm going to do here is just put a bean about, I'd say 6 inches out from the side, and in each of these furrows that have been created, and they'll have plenty of room to make. And then when you're picking them, you don't want them too close together because you got to find the beans all the way down to the bottom. So can you see them in there? And then I'll just cover them up like about the depth of the size they are, which is a little more, of course, on these. Give each one a little hug, and they'll come up for me. You don't want a whole bunch of junk around it, because it's going to have a job pushing the first sprouts up, but beans will come up pretty soon. All right. Oh, there's one more. Like if you ever did a gardening project at school, they'll usually give you a little cup and dirt, and you put a bean in there, and within a week at the most, you're going to see it come up, and that's exciting for some people. Okay, the other thing we're going to put in this bed is beets. I use a Detroit dark red, which is an heirloom, and so there's that paper clip. See, it says heirloom right there, and that's what you want to get as much as possible. So I'm going to take this pointed hoe and make a furrow in the middle of that row, and then I have more green beans here on the other side, because the way I pick them, I take that wagon that has that hay over there on it. It's a flat wagon with good wheels, and I can sit down and just push it with my feet and roll along the side and pick the beans. I'm right down there where I can see under them, and I don't have to bend over all that time. So I put the beans on the outside, And then I'm going to put these beets in the middle, and that's actually too deep. And let's see, they'll tell you on here, put them 3 inches apart. 59 days to harvest. Plant 1/2 inch deep. So I think I'm still too deep. Of course, it depends on how much I put over it. Now, beets are really good juiced. So good for you. I mean, lots of ways to use beets. So I'm just going to drop them in there about every 3 inches. And if you get them closer, you can pull some babies, you know. The greens, the young greens are really good in salad. That's another reason I grow them, because I like beet greens in salad mix. All right, so you get the idea. Just gonna cover them with some fine soil. And then I think that's about enough. It packs down, you know, when you press on it. So you kind of gotta. All right, so I'm just gonna take my markers now and like for the beets, just for right now, so I can remember where I was. I'm gonna put that there. Looks like a grave. Here lie the beets. And do not need to trip over that. And I'm going to put the marker for the beans over there too, to mark the spot. So I'll get that finished tomorrow with the help of my strong and handsome sons. I think that's all we're gonna do in here today. I do want to show you the orchard. It's kind of sad right now, but you'll see it now, and then you'll see it and when everything leaves out, which is really amazing. I mean, once it's full on spring, things are going to explode. And another reason that I haven't planted everything I meant to today is it's supposed to get really cold, like 20s 2 nights next week. Now the potatoes in the ground should be fine, and I may put a blanket over the bed. Anything that sprouted, I don't know if it would be fine. So it's kind of, you know, iffy. And onions can take quite a bit of cold, but I'll probably lay a blanket over that, because I won't have planted the rest of that bed at all. So kind of in a go ahead but hold pattern here, as the weather here in South Texas goes back and forth between, you know, trees are sprouting, you're fixing to see, or budding, and getting in the 20s. So we do what we can. All right, let's go. You want to always take your gloves and your tools in out of the rain. They'll last longer. I mean, you know, even the dew and the sun is hard on things over time. But it's just wonderful to get to be out here. You got distracted there, huh? All right, so this is a lemon tree. The third try at a Meyer lemon here. I had it in a pot for 2 years. 1 year I got 25 lemons off of it. Then I thought, well, it's too big for a pot. Planted it out here. I don't know if it'll come back though. It's supposed to be good down to 20 degrees, but we'll see. Over here is a plum tree that's been here a while. Has some damage on the trunk from cut ant prevention, you could say. And those cut ants, they come in and they'll strip a tree overnight. May talk more about them later in a blog. If you want to follow my blog on Substack, I'll give more detail on everything. This is a mulberry tree that is wonderful. It makes tons of little bitty mulberries, and look at those buds. It's just all over budding out. And if that weather comes as predicted next week, those will all be burned. But it'll just start over. I need to work the ground around it and give it all kinds of organic goodies. That's a sad apple tree that may or may not. It made one little fruit last year that fell off. But I keep, pruning it and putting stuff around it and hoping. I don't know if this moss stuff, I don't know anything about apple trees. So we'll see what happens. It's a gala, I think. The guy that sold it to me told me people grow them here. So this is a persimmon, which I'd really like to have. They make a big orange fruit that's real soft and sweet when it's ripe. It had 3 on it last year, but something got them. I had bird netting over it. And of course, it'll get leaves and hopefully make some fruit. This is how bad the wind is from the south here, though, some of the time, that I have to tie it so it doesn't completely lean over. I'm just going to leave this wagon here, I think, till I take it in the barn. These I can take to we'll need them tomorrow. So over here is a pear tree. Makes those hard pears, which aren't real good for just eating out of hand, but they're nutritious and they're good for canning. So that's one reason I was trying to grow it. Of course, here again, it doesn't have leaves, but the buds are swelling. Oh, there's some leaves. There was a pear tree over here. A peach tree, and actually got some peaches off of it, but then it froze. That's fire ant. So what I would like to put here is an olive tree, and I'll show you. We have one in the greenhouse that we bought this last year and potted up, and now I hope it's big enough to put out in the early spring. So here's my little greenhouse. Back there, go on in and see the olive tree. It's that bigger one in front of the right here. The cut ants stripped it last year, but it's coming back nicely. And once it's outside, I think it'll take off. Here's the tomato plants. they got wind burned. Some leaves got damaged from one of the panels coming out, but then I fixed it. And they're going to be fine, though. They have nice, stout stems. And when I plant them, I'll bury them up to here. I'll cut all those lower branches off anyway, because then the plant makes roots all along the stem. Makes for a really healthy tomato plant that takes off. So hopefully after we get past this next cold snap, I'll be able to get them in the ground because they need it and they need to be. Now I could, if I had enough tall containers, I could pot them up like that and they would keep, here's some of that wind damage, and then they would make roots all in that container and they would get pretty big though, and then I would not have space for them. So there's lots of plants taking refuge in here from the cold. Thank you for coming out to the garden with me. Today, we got our hands dirty with some soil preparation and several planting methods. Come back soon and find out what's growing. You'll see you reap what you sow.